Are you ready to make 2025 your best year yet? I'm Patti Hunt, and you're listening to the RV Life Podcast. This is part 2 of my 2-part series. In part 1, my guest, Joe Fier, and I had a great discussion to help you end 2024 with clarity and purpose. I highly recommend you going back and listening to that episode. Today, Joe Fier and I will continue the conversation and provide actionable tips for a successful 2025. The RV Life Podcast was created to educate, entertain, and explore the RV lifestyle. My mission is to inspire you to live life to the fullest. This week on What You Need to Know, brought to you by Open Road Resorts with locations in Montana, Idaho, Nebraska, and New Mexico, as well as 2 incredible locations in Texas. If you're looking to get out of the winter weather, these locations would be a great place to go. And Open Road Resorts is offering my listeners 25% off stays of 2 nights or more at any of the Open Road Resorts parks. This is good for the 2025 season, and the 20% off is valid until January 31st, 2025. You use code RVLIFE25, that is all uppercase, and it is case sensitive. If you're looking to give them a call, make sure you tell them you heard about it on the RV Life Podcast. Certain blackout dates do apply, but this is a great opportunity to get to an incredible location in Texas. Okay, what you need to know. We are 2 weeks till the largest RV show. The Florida RV Super Show in Tampa is January 15th to the 19th, and it is not just for buying an RV. Sure, if you're looking to buy an RV, it is a great place to check out manufacturers and dealers, go in them, sit in them, take your time, and really explore the type of RV that's right for you. But there's also going to be hundreds of vendors with great products and services to check out. There'll also be campgrounds there, so you can find out more about different types of campgrounds. My favorite part of these type of events is community, meeting other RVers, going to the meet and greets, meeting influencers. There will be lots for the RV community for you to do. There's also going to be a free tram service and shuttle service. You could check that out on their website. This was brought to you by Open Road Resorts, and you could go to Open Road Resorts to find out all about their incredible parks. Now, my guest, Joe Fier, is back, and this is actually the 3rd time Joe is back. I hope people take the time to listen to last week's episode, but if you haven't heard about him, let me tell you about Joe. He is a successful content marketer and podcast host of Hustle and Flowchart podcast, a top 1% podcast globally who provides advice to entrepreneurs on how to work smarter and live better. He has hosted over 600 podcast episodes where he interviews top experts and authors in various fields such as business and personal development. In his podcasts and talks, Joe consistently connects this approach to helping others, advocating for actionable steps that inspire transformation. He views these small wins as ripple effect, impacting not only individuals, but the communities they engage with, fostering a fuller and more joyful way of living. Welcome back, Joe Fier.
Thank you, Patti. This is crazy. Round 3 now. We've done this in a second of 2 parts, right?
I know, and never have I done a round 3. But for my listeners, you and I have just connected. We just flow. You have a podcast that the way that I do my podcast, I know the person, I know we can flow. There's no script here. We're just kind of finding our way around with the ultimate goal to help people make 2025 the best year ever. Now it is
Absolutely.
day one,
Happy New
January
Year.
1st. Happy New Year. Yes. We'll have
Where's
Jacob.
my champagne at? I drank it
I
already, I
know,
guess. I don't
right?
know.
Probably we were drinking. Yeah. Um, so as people know, this is luckily previously recorded. Um,
Yeah.
and so really trying to make 2025 great. And I think let's first start. Last week's show, you told your story. I recommend people go back and listen to that episode because I think ending 2024 on the right foot is going to be a big help in making 2025 the best year ever.
Oh, yeah.
What I'd like to ask is, can you share, first of all, why is this topic so important that you agreed to not be on for the second time, but the third time?
Yeah, right. I know. Well, for one, it's you. I will
Oh,
say that, and
thank
that's
you.
genuinely
Good
true because
answer.
absolutely. Yeah. And when we met, it was about a year-ish ago, a little more now, I guess, at the time of this recording. Yeah, my time frame is all getting skewed now. But ever since meeting you and Dan, it's you guys are a pleasure in person. And Jacob, your producer, our producer, I know he says the same and loves you guys too. So there's that. that is
Thank
that is
you.
very true. But it's great to chat with. You're an open book. I love the fact that you were a teacher, always a teacher. So you have really great perspective of educating young people, which, I know is a very tough gig, but rewarding, I'm assuming. And, there's a lot of reasons why I think our chats are super fun. So I just hope everyone listening also feels similar, like you're getting a bunch of takeaways, because that's our intention here is to give our backgrounds, but at the same time, it's for you to relate to and do something with, because, right, it's all about the journey. And
Absolutely.
I mean, that's life in a nutshell. It's everything you're doing here at RV Life Podcast. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And certainly, I didn't expect that to be the answer.
True.
I appreciate it. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. And,
Mhm.
that's been my intention with the podcast and continuing on with the podcast. So I appreciate hearing that. Let's dive in. This time of year, people are thinking things like New Year's resolutions, setting goals, setting intentions, all of those words. And I say it in a way because often that is a very, I've set the goals. I think for most people, they've thought about New Year's resolutions. They've probably set them. So whether they're about health, losing weight, the gyms will be packed this time of year,
For about a month.
finance
Yeah.
for about a month. Yeah. And there's actually data that shows
I know.
the increase, right?
I've heard of
And
it. Yeah. I
yes,
think it's pretty accurate. It's about a month or so.
oh yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
But it's setting goals like finances. People want to
Mhm.
make more money. I want the bigger house. I want the nicer car. So finance is a big New Year's resolution. Goals, relationships. I want to meet that person, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, not you because you're married with two
Yeah.
beautiful little girls.
Yeah.
So
That's
not,
right.
but these are the common things. So I looked up what are the common, resolutions that people make. There's also
Mhm.
statistics, and I didn't pull them, that show people make New Year's resolutions by February, whatever the date is, they've stopped, and by March they've. So my point in saying all this, which sounds rather negative, is I want to change that. I want to change the narrative. I want to change how we think about it. I want to make some suggestions because I've done that. And I think you probably have too. New
Oh, yeah.
Year's Eve, set the New Year's resolution, set the intention, but had nothing to keep me on track. So
Yeah.
today is all about how we do it. So let's start. Last week we talked about reflecting. Let's just, on 2024, and that's important, right? Let's talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
So the reflecting part, I think I mentioned last time, is like what worked, what didn't, and what can I do next? It's like what are the next steps? So back to the reflecting, it's really getting clear of what happened, how did I act. I think a big thing here actually, Patty, is we talked about slowing down and things, but then when in the slowdown, at least for me, you realize, oh wait, the actions, like I can't control everything, but I can sure as heck control my actions and even to an extent and to a large extent my thoughts. And if you can slow everything down, you're able to read these things a little more and control your actions better, maybe even slow those or eliminate negative thoughts. Because there was a book I was reading recently. It's called Lucky You by Price Pridgett. He's a psychologist, that is. He's been around for a long time. It's like a 60-page book. And he broke down, and basically it's like, it's not all about telling yourself positive things. That's not the most powerful thing, but it's more before that, it's eliminating the negative thoughts. So it's these patterns. And if you can identify what are those negative patterns that you have through reflection, and then before you start setting whatever intentions or goals, or I think what I would like to talk about are habits, these sustainable things. But you need to know, like, what did you do before? And then, like, how can you eliminate these patterns or negative thoughts so you're not going to just get in that trap in February or March or whatever ends up happening, or even next week, after you forget.
I think that's great. And I think that, and I wanted to bring that up, and people, again, I encourage people to go listen to last week's episode, which was on Monday instead of Wednesday. I usually post my episodes on Wednesday. But reflecting, some people just want to forget about 2024. It's done. Let me forget about it. And there might be some things that just need to be let go of and forgot about. But there's a learning. So I'm glad, because that's going to help set us up for a better 2025.
Yeah.
Now, as we move into the new year, here we are, day one. And, it's incredible to think that we are at this point we're at, and we just recorded this days before it went out. So I'm still in kind of a surprise state of, yes, it's 2025.
Time warp. Yeah, that we're all in.
That's what it feels like. It absolutely feels like that. And again, in that episode, I shared some of the challenges I went through and how they led me to a 2024 that had so much for me to be grateful for, so much to be absolutely celebrate. I think a big part, you and I have talked about it, is your why. Yeah. So let's talk about that. I'm going to throw it to you to talk about why. Why, I'm just going to throw it to you.
Why am I doing this thing? Yeah. Exactly. Why? Yeah. Why am I showing up every day? Why am I? Yeah.
Right.
It's a great question. You got to, Simon Sinek has a whole book that says start with why. Yeah.
Exactly. I love that book. Highly recommend it.
There you go. Me too. And it's the why. And I think what he's getting at really is like, what do you want? Like, what do you really want? And, a lot of us I think it's fuzzy. It's a fuzzy, like, North Star that you're maybe shooting for, and that's like the direction you're trying to go to, because you can only control so much, but at least you can control the general direction you want to travel in life and with your family, business, in the RV that you might be driving right now. It's like, you don't know what's up ahead, really. So that's everything in life. So my why is, it's family first, like I was talking about in the previous episode. So that's, family, knowing I want to be a present father and husband to my wife, support her, because she, being the mother, I mean, inherently, naturally, societally, kids go to her first, but at the same time, I'm not just going to be like, oh, I'm going to sit over here and just like work all day, or, this is my thing, I'm going to go make all the money now, because, like, no. There's time for more than that. And so they are my why. That's for dang sure. And then, but with that, I know what I want, which is, to experience life fully, but like the things I can control are, my time, the amount of days I'm working, the days I'm not working, very, very containing myself in the actions I choose to do on the work side, but also on the family side. So I know I can be there for them and myself all at the same time. And there's adventure. I love adventure. So it's like creating time for that, for myself and them. Yeah.
Right. And it's interesting, when I first learned about my why, and I read the book, and it was about 12 years ago, you never mentioned your why was to make more money.
Right. Exactly.
Not that it's a thing. So, and I think this is a big important thing, is we set intentions If somebody's importance is to make money, and I'm guilty because I thought that was what it was all about, is making
Sure.
more money.
Yeah.
And to me, what I've learned is no, it's not about the money. What does the money, though, get for me?
Mm.
So, doing what I do now, going from being a teacher for 20 years and that sort of 9 to 5, I know I didn't work 9 to 5, but it was very regimented. And I made a certain amount of money and saying, okay, I'm giving all of that up, the health insurance, the steady pay, the perceived security in that job,
Yeah.
going from there to this place of being an entrepreneur.
Mm.
If it's just about the money, it's hard to get up out of bed every day. And
That's
so
right.
my why has been, family, like you said. I want it. So I had to learn, what is it the money is going to get for me? And
Mm.
that is freedom to be with my family, with my kids, with my now grandkids, with, to do the things that I want to do. And a big part of that is my mission to inspire other people to go out and live life fully. So as people are thinking about their intention for 2025 and thinking, okay, I want to make $100,000 this year, I want to make 200, whatever. If it's money oriented, what does that do for you? Is all I suggest that I hope people think about and look at. Your why is that strong. And again, I highly recommend the book, Start With Why. It's that strong, motivating thing that gets your butt out of bed every day. Because there are
That's right.
days, especially for me this past year, getting my butt out of bed was the biggest challenge. Like, it
I
was
bet. Yeah.
challenging.
Yeah. And we all have that thing that's nagging at us, right? And I think those are opportunities for us to reflect, slow down, like what we talked about a lot in the previous episode last year is
Uh-huh.
is uh, like we all have these things that are swirling around, the worries, anxieties, the stressors. Could be money induced. That's great. It doesn't feel great, but let's be honest, it's solvable. And there's so many ways to solve a problem. It's like, sure, you could get another job, but maybe, maybe, maybe you can't. There you can arrange things. You can move somewhere else. You can rent. You can buy, or sell. There's, and that's where, I'm not gonna lie. Like the money thing that's I think it's partially my upbringing because we all have that
Mhm.
background too in whatever anxieties we have. Money is one of those things that, just, oh, I don't have enough in the account that I am comfortable with. We all have that threshold and that definitely rises or lowers whatever direction in your life. But and I feel like us as humans, like we're very, unless we're identifying what the thing is and can label it, like we're almost like the lobster in the boiling water, or is it, or the frog? Sorry, the frog in the rising, the temperature where we just get used to it, and then all of a sudden we're just like, what the heck is you're
Right.
and you're so we get so comfortable, in things, and then we just kind of let life continue. So I'm a proponent of like, hey, faster if we can, identify these things, label them, and then find a plan to move on. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And let's talk a little bit about money. I do want to take a short little break because the RV Life podcast does rely on sponsors. So,
Yep.
Way to make money.
There you go.
And this is also a way to save people money. So it is a hassle-free RV skirting that inflates, and it's by Air Skirts. Air skirting goes around the perimeter of the RV and prevents warm air from escaping. It protects your pipes from freezing and causing damage, and it saves money on heating costs. Uses by using trapped air as a natural insulator. It is made of a heavy duty military grade PVC coated canvas. It sets up in minutes. There's no drilling in your RV, no messy DIY. I highly recommend people go to airskirts.com. They are giving my listeners $200 off a kit order, and the code is RV Pod. So that is RVPOD for $200 off a kit order. let's go back and talk about money. And I have found ways to make money. My sponsors obviously are great help in doing that. Last year in April, and some people have heard the story, I shared the story in the last episode, but just real quickly, back in March when Dan became ill, I decided that we needed to move out of our RV. I literally, everything I owned, everything we owned was in that RV, 40 foot. So there was a lot of stuff. All of that stuff fit into the U-Haul trailer. So not that big for everything we own. And so we took that and drove up to Pennsylvania. I had no house to go to. Um, like I said, everything I owned was in this U-Haul that went into storage. Um, a month or two after getting here, the car broke down, and the mechanic said,
Of course.
yeah, of course, of course is right. The mechanic said, listen, I don't even feel right charging you and doing an oil change because there's just so much wrong with it. So no home, no car. I mean, a lot of people at this point start to crumble because you think about money and you think about your basic needs getting met. Well, that was a little iffy.
Yeah.
You know, my husband's in a hospital, not sure what's going on at this point. And I, I guess my point in saying this is, yeah, money at that point can be very concerning. I've been there. I don't want to minimize for any of my listeners that, oh, money's not important and don't worry about it. But I want to emphasize the fact that I don't know exactly what people are going through, but I've been through it. I've been through, now in all of that can be incredibly, incredibly grateful for the people that came and sincerely, with no wanting anything in return, to help, to support me. Here it is 8 months, I guess, later. I am still living in a house with a friend. I can say, oh my gosh, I'm living in a house with a friend instead of having my own place. But I have had to look at how grateful I am for how well we get along, how well this is working, how well things worked out. I had somebody loan me their car. Now, some people say, oh, you got lucky and you have. No, it's what you believe. It's what you feel. I could have just stayed in bed and not wanted to get out. And I don't think anybody would have blamed me.
Mm-hmm.
But again, my why got me up out of bed every day.
Mm.
And my family, my community, my friends have just been incredible. And when you're grateful, more comes. And I
That's
think
right.
that's the hardest thing to explain to people, but that's what happens.
And you're putting it out there too. There's a reason why your friend agreed, and the fact that you get along is, and it's awesome that you have a place with your friend right now. You're in their place. Like, you don't need your own place to have that happiness or feel complete or whole. It's I think community is one of these things that, hopefully going into 2025 becomes more of a thing that we all embrace, because I feel like it's, at least maybe it's the era I'm in or where I live specifically, but I feel like things have been a lot more fragmented, a lot less connection with people, even families in some cases. And yeah, it's hard to ask for help. It's hard to be honest, or actually, you ask someone how they're doing, like, oh, good, good. Like, how are you really doing? Like, do I need it? I
Exactly.
feel weird having to ask again, but I'm like, I genuinely, and I'm saying, like, your sisters, your brothers, your close friends, not just
Mhm.
saying someone up the street. But even then, it's like, why not? Brutal honesty, like there's no
Exactly.
benefit in just saying everything's good.
Yeah, I'm fine. The answer
Yeah,
is
yeah,
I'm
fine.
fine. Again, setting up for 2025, one of the big things that I would suggest you sound like you ask for help, put
Yeah.
it out there. As soon as I say to somebody, look, Dan went in the hospital, things are falling apart. People know that, hey, things,
Hmm.
maybe she needs help and support. But it's sometimes the person that's just at home struggling that needs the support. I had a
Hmm.
friend that I was talking to that I know is going through a tough time. And I messaged her and she said something like, I'm fine,
Hmm.
although her world was falling apart. And I stopped what I was doing and got on the phone with her. I'm like, okay, you don't sound fine. And so I
Mhm.
think that's a suggestion. Now, for people looking, and you and I could definitely go down rabbit holes. I'm trying to keep us on track
Yeah, yeah.
for how to be, how to create a 2025 that's better. These are important. First of all, what I want to emphasize is ask for help.
Yeah.
You may ask 5 people and they blow you off or they've got nothing solid to advice wise, but ask for help.
Yeah.
Go out and ask for help. Take everything that's said with a grain of salt, decide what works, what doesn't. But that's important for making 2025 a successful year. We are not saying that anything we suggest here moving into 2025 is going to make it perfect.
Mhm.
Learning how to deal with challenges, they're going to come up. 2025, guarantee, this is my guarantee for everybody listening, there are going to be some challenges. Now, I hope for
I
all of
might
my
take that a
listeners.
step further, but yeah.
Okay, well, you take it a step
Go ahead,
further. Yeah,
no, complete your thought though.
I
Yeah.
was going to say, so 2025 will be challenges. It is how we handle them.
Hmm.
And it has
Absolutely.
taken me time to get to where I am. I know that had this happened with Dan 10 years ago, I'd be not prepared as I am today. So go ahead. I'm going to have you take it even further.
Well, really quick, like, how do you feel like you're more prepared now than like a decade prior? Like, is there a specific thing? Is it just life?
I
Yeah.
I read a lot. I've done a lot of, classes, courses,
Hmm.
mindset, call it what you want, personal growth.
Cool.
I have
Yeah.
learned over time, reminded myself to surrender to the things I have no control over. I have, it has been a learning over the last 15 plus years. And I'll
Yeah.
go back even further than that. I always thought there was something more to life. I'm spiritual and there are
Hmm.
certain things I believe and don't believe. So it has been a process over a long time. Now, I'm also very impatient. So when I first started learning about this being a process and it could take years, I'm like, oh, no, that doesn't work for
I need
me.
it now.
I want it
Yeah.
now. I want to
Yeah.
learn now. Just give me a checklist of what I need to learn and then I'll go on. I'll take 2024, give me the checklist. What do I need to learn? I'll do it all. I'll check it off and we'll be good. It doesn't
Joe,
work.
give me the roadmap. I need
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. And I've had coaches, I've worked with coaches, I've worked with therapists years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
Um, I it's sometimes your friends are great, but you need that. So how did
Hmm.
I get here? I have a bunch of tools in my tool belt that I have had to that I have accumulated
Yeah.
over the years. And it's trusting people. It's these friends that I'm now relying on, the person that loaned me the car,
Yeah.
I would have never imagined myself. I don't know that I asked. I think he offered it up, but to feel like,
Yeah.
I guess to feel like I had enough value to accept that. And I'm
Hmm.
being really,
Hmm.
really open right now. Like it's the same thing as we talked about on last week's episode. My birthday, it would come and go.
Mm.
Like Dan went in the hospital in April. My birthday's in May. People around me didn't even know. My family, we went out to dinner.
Yeah.
Um, and afterwards it was like, I didn't know. I do that on purpose because I didn't feel like I was important enough for that. And again, I'm being really
Yeah.
vulnerable here, really
Hey,
open.
I'm
And
happy you are because that's.
yeah,
I feel
and
like all of us have this. But yeah, go.
exactly. And that has to change. That
Yeah.
feeling like you're important enough. You're going to ask people sometimes for something and they may say, no, I can't do that. But hey,
Yeah.
ask.
Well, and this, I think I dropped it in last year's episode. I'm just gonna keep saying that, but last week's episode is you are the most important person on the planet, in the universe, well, or however you want to, all the university. It's like because if it doesn't start with you, then who is it going to start with? And there's another author, Gabor Mate, with his book. Oh my gosh, it's the latest book he wrote. It's thick. It's like 400 something pages. But I'm going to look it up as I'm saying. Yeah,
I'll put it in the show notes for people.
Yeah, and the actual where's that book? But basically, it talks about the myth of normal. That's what it's called. So highly recommend it. And it, there's something in there. It's like nice people. When you're nice, it's actually nice people die sooner. They get cancer. They get diseases because they're not looking out for themselves. They're being passive. They're not listening to what their body is saying or what they quote unquote should be doing. They're not asking for help. They're always, oh, how are you? Oh, I'm okay, but how are you? I'm going to do everything for you. It's
Right.
a lot of women are in that role because of society or whatever, is like, oh, I can't ask for help. I got to appear like I got it all put together, or and all of us probably have. I don't know what the stats are, but yeah, that book lines out very clearly. Stop being nice. Like, be nice, but start with yourself first,
Right.
because no one else is going to be able to do that for you.
And that is a great, if people do not take anything else out of the this week's podcast, that's it right there.
Cool.
And, books are a big thing for both of us, reading books, listening to podcasts, that help improve, that give tips. And sometimes you listen to something and you think, yeah, that doesn't resonate with me. Move on and try something else. Or something you heard a year ago, you're now listening to is like, oh, I get that now. Now that makes sense. So these books, and we're going to put those in the show notes, that working on yourself, I think, is probably the number one thing that people could do to make 2025 different. And that's why I share my experience, because it is because of the books, the people I've listened to, the conversations you and I have had, and sometimes coaches, therapists. There is a time and a place for those as well, to help you to be the best that you could be. And I'm going to add to that the people around you, not only for them to listen to you, but want to build you up. I mean, let's be a little negative. You ever met that person that you're talking to them, but they're almost in competition with you?
Oh yeah, they go back to an I story rather than actually asking further about whatever that topic is that you're talking about. They're redirecting back to some story. It's me.
Right.
You feel it, even if it's not said that way. Yeah.
And I'm going to be cautious with that. I just read something that there are certain people, and I find I do this, like when somebody tells me something to reinforce what I've learned, I will then share something that helps me to understand what you said in context of my life. But to your point, there are people that, they'll ask how you are, but they really don't know, because there are people that'll say, how are you? And the answer is fine, because it's just words. So the second, I think we're not keeping track of numbers here, but I think the next big tip here for 2025 is that support system, the people in your life that truly are looking for your best interest, want what's best for you. They're celebrating your wins for you. I have somebody who reminds me, hey, way to go. We need to celebrate that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We need those people, because even though we're entrepreneurs, and I don't know if you feel this way, or you're living on the road, whatever that looks like, sometimes it's very isolating. And look, I felt that way living in a house. I shouldn't say,
I do right now, honestly, to be very honest. And this is, that's where the lack of community, or even like, to be honest, like neighborhoods, a lot of neighborhoods, I feel like it's just not easy for a kid to just go outside and play. Of course, it depends on where you live, but it's like, man, there's that does something to us as people. Like, we're social creatures. Or you have social media where you're looking at everybody, but you're not really connecting. And I mean, and you have things like AI and all these advancements in technology that, automate things. And this is a big world I live in, and I advise companies on. I'm showing them how to do all this, but it's done with the intention of, I actually want to further human connection where there's a lot of things that can be automated and done strategically that allow us to actually live more away from screens and connect with people in a deeper way. Because with all this tech and stuff, you can actually learn about yourself deeper and faster than you
Right.
ever have in your life. You have access to all the information.
Right. And you
Yeah.
said a mouthful, and I'm stopping you.
I know. I had to stop.
No, because for my listeners, Joe and
Yeah.
I can see each other on video, so I'm making hand signals
Oh,
because what you said was so important, and we are going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, the people talk all the time, the work play balance. I'm going to call it,
yeah.
work life balance. Call
I
it what
like
you want.
work play better. That's
I
good.
like. I think I got it from you actually.
Maybe. Yeah.
I might have.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that, and I want to be conscious of our time. So before we talk about that, I do want to talk about one of my sponsors, NIRVC, National Indoor RV Centers, that has 6 locations across the country. So if you are looking to buy a Class A, B, or C motorhome, these are the people I absolutely know and trust and like and highly recommend. I don't say that easily about people or a company. If you're looking for a great place to shop for 2025, 26 motorhomes, you could do that May 31st at the Music City Motorhome Expo. It's the 2nd annual event. I was there last year. It was the event of the year, and it was incredible. I've already signed up to go back this year. They are doing all your meals, so 3 meals a day, entertainment, and you could test drive anything that you want to test drive there. You'll get to meet the major manufacturers. This is the event to be at, and that is May 31st, and it's Music City Motorhome Expo.com or NIRVC.com. So I want to go back because what you said, I'm sure people were thinking, okay, first you're talking AI, which means I'm on electronics. And then you're kind of talking, well, let's step away from electronics and have the human connection.
Yeah.
And this has been a big conversation over the last year or so, maybe longer. And moving into 2025, this is a huge tip that I wanted to take time out for here and now, because it's a huge tip for making 2025 better in so many ways. So let's talk about AI and how it can make life better.
How about what's your perception of it, Patti? And like, what do you think the listener's perception is? And then I'll kind of, because it definitely has a perception everywhere you go. Yeah.
And I will admit, long ago, I had this idea that it sort of scared me. I didn't know about it. So anything unknown is kind of scary. Having a YouTube channel, we use some AI, having social media, the pictures were AI. So my experience is probably more limited. We were using a lot of the AI generated pictures on social media, and the person that I use that does my social media said, you know what, whenever possible, I want a real picture. I don't want AI in that case.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, as I've learned, and I've learned a lot from you and some of the AI tips and things that you have talked about, like has been my biggest eye opener. So definitely listening to your podcast, going on your website has been a huge thing. I see AI making my life specifically, more streamlined, easier, better, giving me ideas and thoughts that I didn't have. But I will tell you, the huge thing that I love is the fact that I can take, and you talked about it, I think, on the first episode you were on, but being able to talk my thoughts into AI, and you're going to talk about the program that does it, and then it giving me a breakdown, it giving me a summary. That was mind-blowing, amazing. And people that listen to podcasts, I write in my journal. I use a pencil and a specific type of notebook. And that's what I love doing. But there are times in the car that my head is going a million miles, or I'm taking a walk. And when you talked about using AI to getting those thoughts out, that was a big thing for me.
Mm,
So I do
yeah.
see where AI is not going anywhere. We
No.
could use it to improve our lives. And so I'm willing to learn more. And I think this is a huge way that
Awesome.
people can make 2025 easier. So give us more about that.
I will. Yeah. Well, you have a healthy perspective. I'll just say that. And yeah, and I know you've been using it, and you have Jacob, producer, aiding in some of that as well. And, you know, he hears enough about me and he shares stuff with me as well because he's my producer for my podcast,
Right.
just to put it out there to everyone. But yeah, so, you know, I mentioned it is an interesting thing when you don't know or haven't used AI. And AI has been around for a long time, machine learning, but really it's the last like 2 years. It's come on scene in a big way in terms of adoption. I heard something, it's like it's adopted the public double the speed than cell phones. And I think before that, you know, cell phones were like double the speed of adoption than like computers, personal computers. It's something like over 50% of the world already, the population has used AI in some way already. And that's kind of mind blowing if you think about it. So, what's 2025 going to be? I mean, technology and everything just, there's a scaling, like it compounds and speeds up. And, you know, there's challenges to that, but that's a different conversation. But there's a tech side, but then I feel like, you know, there's this analog side where there's going to be more of a pull for human connections. I mean, I genuinely think RVing and camping and things like that will probably explode, you know, and because people are going to be looking for changes. It might be not out of work, but I would say things are shifting to a different way to work. I think is a better way to look at it. And, you know, are there jobs going to be lost? Yes, but I think a lot more will be gained, and we'll actually be doing things that are less of a repetitive thing, something that, you know, administrative tasks, email already just well, couple weeks or a few weeks or so at the time of this dropping and going live, you have emails now that can be pretty much answered by AI, or at least like give you a good starting point so you don't have to overthink emails anymore. So it's like you could just kind of get through tasks that maybe you spent too much time or mental energy on. So it can free your time up to do more living ultimately. I mean, that's how I see it is, you know, you can create a greater or better life when you implement technology and start using it. Just get comfortable with it is what I would recommend. So like you did, Patty, I think the app that you probably used was Chat GPT,
Yes.
and yeah, and used your phone to talk into it because they have a voice feature, and it's only gotten better since we last chatted, like just the other week, time of this recording or the time of it publishing. You can do even more. Like you can turn on your camera if you wanted to, and this is where it gets a little creepy, but at the same time, it's not going away. It's here. It's probably been used in places that you were unaware. But like Patty, for instance, you can open Chat GPT, start one of these voice chats with the AI, and turn on your camera, point that to your journal, and it can read your journal
Oh
like
my
that.
God.
I know it sounds weird, but at the same
Mind blown.
time, then you could say, hey, you could talk like, what do you see here that I should probably reflect on more? Or what are some gaps in my thinking? Like how can I improve based off of what I just wrote down? And it will literally give you real-time insights, and you can just have that
Wow.
chat. Um, like I think I mentioned to you earlier, I had it help me create I have a new trigger. So I was smoking some meat, making some food, and made a cocktail. And it actually helped. And I knew what I was doing for the most part. But like it was walking me around the kitchen. I was showing it the ingredients, and it was telling me exactly what to do as like a personal assistant next to me. I was like, this is wild.
That is incredible. And my
Yeah.
mind is blown. I have so many different thoughts, but
Of course.
but overall, for people to maybe that has never used it, the start of a new year, maybe decide you're going to tap into it a little bit at a
Mm,
time.
yeah.
Just use a part of it, just get familiar. Because years ago, when I first heard about Chat GPT, I heard how complicated it was. I don't do complicated. Like if it's not fun, I outsource it. I don't do complicated. It's why we both have
Yeah.
Jacob, who is, the producer, editor. It's nothing I want to be doing. So, with AI, I could just say whatever I want now, and it comes up with something, and then it'll say, it's almost like talking to somebody, because now it'll say, can I make this better? Can I improve it? So
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. So wow. And the fact that it could read my journal is
Now
both
it
a
can.
little
Yeah.
scary and pretty cool. So I will be doing that tonight and see what it comes up with.
Cool. Yeah.
And I know sometimes when, you know, 2025, we talk about challenges, everybody's going to have them. Sometimes talking through that and having something like a AI responding, I'm going to just caution here that for some people, they need professional help.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
my caution. You and I have talked a little bit about mental health issues. So I'm going to caution that, and it'll be interesting to see what the AI does. Somebody that needs help, we both highly recommend getting it. I know I'm going down a different rabbit hole. As we talk about closing out, we talked last week, 2024 and challenges. You know, Sometimes, like I said, I work with therapists, I work with coaches, and all different types of people that have, helped me create the tools that have helped me through the challenges. So that is great. And I'm going to highly recommend that people bring AI into their learning for this year. Just at least try it out, make your own opinion. You go online, there's all kinds of thoughts. And I know they can check you out at hustleandflowchart.com
That's right.
to find out more about AI, because you talk a lot about it. You've had a lot of experts on that talk about it as well, right?
I'll continue to have more, but yeah, I mean, I am an advisor of a startup that is scaling very quickly, getting a bunch of VC funding, and it's called Delphi.ai. And when you go to, you can actually, I'll just put it here, hustleandflowchart.com/clone, CLONE. It actually has all of my podcast episodes, over 600, plus YouTube videos, content, other training, all put into this knowledge base, this second brain almost. And people can interact, text, audio, even video. So you
Wow.
get, like, you see an avatar of me. So that's
That-
actually probably the best way to interact with me. Like, if you wanted to just pause and go there, or at the episode.
right.
But
You
I'll
and
say, yeah,
send it. Yeah. And you and I, let's do some video on that. We could put it out and
yeah,
show people, because
yeah.
again, for me, it's a little mind blowing. I'll admit it's a little scary in some ways, but it is definitely something to move into 2025 that people should check out. Okay.
Yeah.
And I see what our time is looking like. I want to do a little bit. We have a couple more things to cover. Um, First of all, let's do the question of the week. And I usually talk and ask you about a bucket list item. People can listen to the last, I'm not going to put you on the spot again. People can listen to the last episode where you shared your bucket list item. I'm going to ask you, when people think about creating a bucket list, I think sometimes it's like creating, like, this is my dream, or creating a vision board. They put it up, or they write the bucket list, but then don't do anything to make it happen. It's just there. It's something
Yeah.
you dream about, but it doesn't happen. I actually asked AI what the difference between dream and thinking about doing something.
Ooh.
Very different. Dream is out there. We don't necessarily make plans.
Yeah.
Thinking about doing something, we make plans. So
Yeah. Okay.
so a
I
bucket
like
list,
it.
I want it to be something people think about, not just dream about. So talk to me about, and again, none of this is pre-set up. What do you think about when you think about the idea of a bucket list? What suggestion can you give people to create a list of something moving into 2025?
I like it. And you,
I'm going to let you think about that. And while you're thinking,
I got it. All right, but go ahead. Yes. Yeah,
okay,
please
I
go.
was just going to talk about Open Roads. I was going to talk about my sponsor, Open Roads. They have
Do
a
it.
diesel fuel card that helps you save money every time you stop for diesel fuel. Every time I've saved 40 cents, 60 cents a gallon, sometimes as high as $1 a gallon. It makes such a difference for people traveling. that is open roads. There is a link in the show notes. And they also have an incredible toll pass, which covers, this is for the toll roads across the country, covers all 48 states. You get the one toll pass for your both vehicles. So whether you're towing a car or you have a truck that's pulling an RV, one toll pass that covers all 48 states with concierge service that will help anytime you have a problem. Now, I'm going to say 48 states again, because usually when I say it, people are like, wait, what? So I may as well repeat it. And the link for that is in the show notes as well. But go ahead, Joe. I gave you some time, even though you came up with a quick answer for me.
Yeah. Well, I think, oh my gosh, was it this episode or the previous one? I mentioned a book, Lucky You, it's called. And it
was this episode. Yeah. And
Was
I'll
it?
put
Yeah.
it in the
Okay.
show
So,
notes. Yep.
and it's all about, it's basically, I just looked up the subtitle to it. It's Lucky You, a psychological strategy for multiplying luck and achieving your big ambitions. So it's kind of perfect for what we're talking about. I just read it, so that's why it's
Great.
top of mind. And basically it talked about, people on deathbeds, and it's the regrets. It's the regrets of not doing something that they wanted to do. It's something they thought about doing. So to your point, Patti, thinking is that bucket list. You can kind of you can create an action plan if you can think it through. But if it's a dream, there's a gap there, right? Like there's basically a gap. It's fuzzy. You don't know how to connect the dots. I'm not saying it's impossible at all, but because everything not everything, a lot of stuff starts as a dream. But yeah, the big thing is I like the idea of, I don't necessarily have a bucket list, and I do want to come up with more of these things to make it more solidified. I definitely have more of a vision, we'll say.
Okay.
Of
So you call it a vision. Okay.
Vision, road. Yeah. And you can kind of at least the way my wife and I do it, we'll timeline stuff roughly and know okay, well, my daughters are going to be this age. We're going to be these ages. And roughly what are the things that we want to accomplish during these time frames? Because I know there's seasons in all of our lives. We have different flavors and different things we're all going to be into or capable of. So doing that, but also the thing of regrets really came to my mind when you said it, because that is the overarching thing that we hold on to and think about. Man, I really wish I did that thing. I really wish I went on that adventure or said yes to whatever that person that asked me or that idea I had. That it's that whole build up to an action. When you have that point, it's just take the leap. And what that book, Lucky You, talks about is life will actually reward you for taking that leap and taking that action. Doesn't mean it's perfect. You're gonna get punched, kicked, and tossed on the ground. But guess what? You're probably getting that right now, that same kind of treatment. But like we talked about, you're probably just so used to it that you're just taking it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what you choose, which way do you want to go? So that's how I think of it.
And to your point, and we have given a lot of books. You and I are all about reading books, listening, listening to podcasts to get the tools that help you get through things. I have in the past recommended the book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. To your point, it's literally this woman she was a hospice nurse and sat by people's beds, sometimes for months and months at a time, and asked about their regrets. So these are the 5 top regrets of the dying. I recommend that book, and I'll put that in the show notes. But as we start wrapping up, I think that we were able to give so many great ideas. You've given me ideas. I mean, every time we talk, I add something else on. I've got a list of books.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I've got a list of books I want to read. Before I do that, let me just talk about the feature campground of the week. Because again, for people who are looking, what to do next, one of my bucket list items right now that I am planning on, not just dreaming about, is to go to the Keys in Florida.
Nice.
Looks absolutely beautiful. Encore Sunshine Keys Resort and Marina in Big Pine Key, Florida. It's an Encore park. You do not have to be a member to go. It's got 399 sites, and you are surrounded by water. They do offer full hookups, pull-through sites, rentals if you need them. I will go down in and be in a rental. They have an 8.2 rating on the RV Life campground site with 211 reviews. And it's easy to book by going to campgrounds.rvlife.com and you search for Encore Sunshine Key RV Resort Marina. You could see all of their amenities, tons of different pictures, as well as other campgrounds you might want to check out. They have, once you get to campgrounds.rvlife.com and type in Encore Sunshine Key, there's a huge red book now button so you can book right from the site. Highly recommend using campgrounds.rvlife.com. So, wow, what an episode. And there's so much more. Like, for my listeners, we don't have a plan necessarily the road. We have a little bit of, hey, let's talk about this. And then we cover half of it. So there go why you've been on the show 3 times. But to wrap up, we talked about people really looking at their why. We talked about a book. We talked about people finding their tribe. You need the community. You need people that when they ask how you are, they really care and you're able to share. We also talked about people asking for help and having this tool belt to help them through challenges this year. And the big thing we talked about was whether they call it a bucket list, a vision board, a dream board, whatever you call it, but things there should be things you're thinking about, people, places, things you want to do that you're actually planning and making that happen. And so much today. Probably going to need an episode 4.
I'm open.
Yeah, but Joe, I can't thank you enough for being on the show. All your great advice. I highly recommend people go and listen to the Hustle and Flowchart podcast. Thank you again for being a guest. Wow.
Yeah, Patti, you rock. And I appreciate you doing this, inviting me on and taking the time for everyone listening. Because you're on an adventure. There's a reason why you're on, RV Life and doing your own adventure, RV or not, wherever you're at right now. Just do it, and I'm gonna do my best to do it too, because but let's keep the fun going, Patti. I appreciate you a ton and Happy New Year.
Thank you so much. A Happy New Year to you too. And I recommend people reach out to you at hustleandflowchart.com and everywhere else they could get to you. I'll put in the show notes. People can reach out to me, give me ideas for 2025. If you want to be a guest, if you have an idea of topics, you can post right here in the podcast or on my social media at RV Life Podcast, Instagram or Facebook. Again, thank you, Joe, for being on yet again.
Yeah. Awesome.
I'm Patti Hunt, and you're listening to the RV Life Podcast. I want to let you know life's a journey. Live each day to the fullest without regrets.